Good evening. This is a message from the government of the National Regional State of Tigray. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed assumed power in April 2018 to spearhead the reform that the Ethiopian people demanded and EPRDF, the then ruling party, promised to deliver. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has, however, forsaken the reform agenda and focused on building a system subservient to his dictatorial ambitions. Nothing is sacred in his drive for personal power consolidation. There was nothing left unscathed for political convenience. He single-mindedly deconstructed the constitutional federal order and created an environment for anarchy and violence. Politics has become a gamble to be won by any means possible, regardless of legal constraints and moral sensitivities. Tigray's story in the last 2.5 years has been a story of defending and protecting its right to self-governance, enshrined in the Constitution, from such unbridled ambition of the new group in power. The first phase of Tigray's response to the situation was trying to bring the reform process back on track through the available inner EPRDF systems and mechanisms. When the need arose, Tigray came out publicly to express its concern and remind the leadership and the Ethiopian people that the current administration was leading our country in the wrong direction. It's not an easy balancing act when you have a leader on the other side that is careless about the consequences of his words and actions. It is nearly impossible to have rational democratic dialogue with a person who firmly believes he is preordained to lead the country. As a result of such a misguided concept of politics, the leadership turned a deaf ear to the concerns raised by TPLF and the Tigrayan people in general. He also ignored appeals and wise counsel of our elders, religious leaders, and many other political figures for a consensual process. In a typical totalitarian manner, he behaved as if there were no constitutional rules to follow, institutions to respect, and an impending crisis to avoid. Conspiracy, betrayal, crime, and outright lies became the new rules of running politics and public affairs. Anything dear to Ethiopians has been desecrated and trivialized. The Prime Minister eventually abolished EPRDF and undertook an apparently bloodless coup. It was a daytime political robbery. No rationalization in the world could cover the hard truth that the Prosperity Party's usurpation of power was unconstitutional and legally indefensible. Had it not been for the restraint of TPLF, such constitutional transgressions could have triggered an all-out conflict in the country. The last act of deconstructing the constitutional order came when the group in power unilaterally and indefinitely canceled the May 2020 national election. It was a decision that brought the Federal Republic to an end. Subsequently, political leaders who challenged the unconstitutional decision were jailed. Others were neutralized by means of bribery, intimidation, and manipulating division within their ranks. This was yet another impudent measure by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed that could have taken the country to the brink of civil war. Again, TPLF showed restraint and took a constitutional and political path to respond to the crisis. The National Regional State of Tigray decided to hold its regional election as scheduled by the federal and regional constitutions. The decision to hold the election was not only constitutional, but also had near unanimous support across all sectors of the Tigray society and party lines. The registration of more than 100% of expected voters signified the level of enthusiasm people had in favor of the election. 99% of registered voters cast their vote on Election Day. It was perhaps the highest rate of turnout in the history of democratic elections. The Tigray election, among other things, proved the fact that a democratic election can be held successfully and safely while fighting COVID-19. The Tigray National Regional State has repeatedly warned of the danger of state collapse and the consequences of the political crisis Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has invited. It has repeatedly flagged the dangers of crossing the constitutionally defined term limit of the government. It has also repeatedly appealed to the international community to use its leverage on the government to address the crisis through all-inclusive, comprehensive national dialogue. The Tigray National Regional State has also on many occasions made it clear it will not recognize the government of Dr. Abiy Ahmed and the representative institutions as legitimate after the expiry of their term on October 6, 2020. Effective this date, Tigray will recall all its representatives from all elected bodies and the Council of Ministers. Any legal enactment or political decision by the illegitimate government will not be applicable in the Tigray National Regional State. After 2.5 years of political mismanagement, the country is heading into an inevitable downfall. The Federal Republic, gradually but surely, is unraveling. The level of the political and constitutional crisis in the country cannot be resolved by a government-run sham election. The political stalemate demands a dialogue, not a monologue. The agenda of the time is more comprehensive than holding an election. It is important to underline that the current leaders may have playfully endangered the continued survival of the carefully knit country, but it will certainly be very difficult to reconstitute it again. The Tigray National Regional State has been working for a peaceful and constitutional resolution of the political crisis engulfing the country. The response of the regime has never been constructive or forward-looking. We would like to indicate that if the regime continues to escalate its provocations against the security and well-being of the Tigrayan people, it will be solely responsible for the irreversible damage that may be caused on the unity and peace of this country. It is in this context that the Tigray National Regional State once again calls upon the international community to put the necessary pressure on the federal government to accept the peace plan presented by the coalition of Ethiopian Federalist Forces and bring the country back from the brink. Thank you.